In this video, we will use cameras in FLUIDRAY. We will see how we can use them using directly FLUIDRAY, or we can also use them from the software that we are coming from, like for example, Blender or 3ds Max or Cinema 4D or whatever. So you can export cameras, we can use them. Now in the previous video, we saw how we can set up HDRIs and environment maps to have a nice lighting and nice reflections on our object. So right here, we can use this scene and define the camera. You can see right now we are in perspective camera. So at the beginning, when we start to use FLUIDRAY, we are using kind of a default camera called perspective, but we can also create more out of that. So we can start from the standard camera, the perspective camera, and then we can duplicate that camera many times. So basically a camera, what a camera does is set up a view so that I can retrieve it anytime, so I can go back to that view anytime. So every time I set up a camera, I'm doing that. So if I duplicate, now I can change the view here, and it's like I am saving another point of view, another angle, and to see my object. So cameras are really handy, really important, because otherwise you're always going to start all over again. But if you, especially if you are in an interior which is a little bit difficult to set up, cameras are really important because you will only need to go back to cameras. Now you can use cameras also for animation, but if you use the standard setting of the camera, it will not work. So what you need to create animation is to have different scenes, and you can do that again in the software that you're using, or you can do it also in FLUIDRAY directly. And I'm going to make an example with, well, we already saw actually how to create an animation with SketchUp earlier. So just creating different scenes, and we can do it also here. So if I go there in the, well, let's pick one of the camera first. So I'm going to use the perspective copy. I can change the name also, by the way, but I'm going to keep it this way at the moment. You can see you have a scene panel there. So I am right now in the perspective copy camera, and I am in scene 0. So this is my current picture here. Now if I move a little bit the camera around using the navigation tools that we learned previously, I can now click on the plus and create a new scene, and I can rename it by clicking on rename scene. So this now will become the second part of my animation. You can also set up duration and the transition. Now don't think that you're gonna do like these amazing animations here in FLUIDRAY. Now, like just like everything in FLUIDRAY, also animation is really basic. It's pretty simple, and it's not complex, not so fancy at all. It's really basic. So you can see here I set up another scene and try to change to differentiate these scenes so that you can actually have an animation. So let's see, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. Okay, so these are 3 different frames, 3 different point of views, and this will be fine to create the animation. So once I have set up at least 2 scenes in my camera, I can go back to animation by clicking on the button there, and now you can see here that I can render the animation. So I can first define the start scene and the end scene and which camera I want to use. So this is gonna be start scene 0 and scene 2. I can define a resolution. So you have like the highest is gonna be Full HD, and then you have these other 2, not so many options. And again, another reason why if you are interested in animation, you shouldn't stay in FLUIDRAY. Just to create some really simple animation, yes. And then you can change the quality. Now, the more you increase the quality, the more it's going to take to generate the animation. Think about the animation as a series of renderings. So if you are rendering like 10 seconds of animation, you need kind of, well, depending on the frame per second or FPS value, you will need like 300 or 2050 frames. Now if I set up 30 frames per second, that's gonna be 30 images for 1 second of animation. 15 is a little bit too low, so I'm gonna select middle way there, 20 frames per second. And I can preview the animation in a really draft way. You can see it's just 3 different position of my camera and the animated sequence that's between all those 3 keyframes that I've set up. So nothing fancy, nothing so amazing, but really simple and easy like everything else here in and fast in FLUIDRAY. So once I run the preview, I can then render everything out. So I click on render, and you should create a folder here. It's better to create a folder, or you can use the videos folder that FLUIDRAY has already set up for you. So select a folder, select a name, and save the animation. Now it's going to be saved like MP4, but you can also see if there are some additional formats there. So I'm going to create a specific folder here, and there I'm going to save my animation. So if you want to work with animation, you need to have a really strong computer and a lot of time. Animation tend to become really hard and heavy for your computer, and also really long to render. Also, if you're interested in animation, I suggest you can use Blender, which is open source, but also Cinema 4D, Maya, 3ds Max, and many others. And if you want, in the channel you will find courses on this software. Now, another couple of software you can use for animation is Lumion, which is really amazing to the realism and the quality, and also it's really easy and simple to create animation, really fast to render. So I suggest Lumion. Also Twinmotion, it's good to create animation, especially for architecture, like for interiors and exteriors. Those are 2 really powerful software right there. And again, you will find them in the channel as video courses and also as a series of lessons. Now I want to open up the SketchUp software here. I want to use a lesson from the SketchUp video course just to show you how you can set up the cameras before you actually get into FLUIDRAY. So this is another option, and this could be a time saver when you are working with interiors. Now in this case, you can see this is a perspective, but it's a kind of section, so it's showing me the interiors. And this is one trick you can do in SketchUp. It's really easy, and you can use this model as a view if you want. But in this case, you can see it's really easy to set up a camera inside. Now it's more difficult when you have an entire building and you need to get inside. It's going to be a little bit difficult because you need to find the correct spot there to have the nice rendering that you want. Now this is not an amazing interior, but you know, it's gonna do the trick, and I'm also gonna use it to show you the depth of field effect and the other parameters of the camera, like the field of view. So I don't need all these scenes right here, so I'm gonna delete those just to don't make things too complex and don't make confusion. So I'm gonna delete all these plan views and perspective views and section views. I'm gonna just use the standard 3D model here, and I will try to get inside to position this camera. Again, this is a little bit tricky, and this is why cameras are a really helpful tool, because they're gonna help me to save one particular point of view and